Okay, here's another update, and all of the fine details have been painted at this point. The majority of that was painted the yellow color, so you've got the guardrails, the staircases and platforms, as well as the light shades. All of those have been painted all around the model, as well as some other details that I'll show you later on once we close out this project. Also, as I stated, the platform itself, as well as the outside supports, have been, I guess I'll call it the concrete treatment with the AK product to give it a little bit of texture and realism. That has not been weathered at this point. It'll blend a lot more. But of course, along the process and doing this, because I am admittedly clumsy at times, there were some things jolted loose and broken off, so I'll have to go through and do that. And I'm sure through my last sweep, I will find some areas that I still want to detail and paint, maybe some areas that I missed. But the next thing that's going to happen that you'll see with this model is I'm going to go ahead and start that weathering process and get this thing going. I like the direction it's going, and just got a few more steps here, so I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back, and what you see on the left is the dust collector and on the right is the blast furnace. And I hope everything is in frame, as these are a couple of large structures. But I took a step back from working on the cast house as not to get burnt out or bored, but still keep the project moving forward. So what I did is, just like with the stoves, is painted a basic color. Actually, there's a mixture of colors to emulate the furnaces or the steel mill structures being used, but not at their end. So there is a little bit of rust that is starting, but it's not prevalent. Tried to look at photos and of course match my backdrop to get that effect. And as we wind the video down, I'll show you closer detail, but I just wanted to show you at this point that what I've done is started to paint the finer details on both of the models. And I would say the dust collector is just about ready to go. I may add a little bit more shading and runoff, but I don't want to overdo it, which I tend to do sometimes. But I think it's going in the right direction. And then the blast furnace is pretty much the same way. There are a couple of things that I need to weather on this to make it fit what I'm going for, so I'll do that, but not a ton of work. I did most of the work, getting those fine details. There is a little touch-up work that I need to do where paint got where I didn't want it to, but not too bad. So let me get back to work, and we'll come back and show you another update. Okay, YouTube, I'm back with the cast house, and let me tell you what I've done. So I went through and I did some rust streaks throughout the whole structure using oil paints, various colors of rust to streak those down. I also went through and did a lot of touch-up work where when I was spray painting larger structures, some of the overspray got on other areas. So some of the areas where the yellow for the fencing, guardrails I should say, and the fire escapes and lampshades, all of those areas, some of those areas had to be touched up. So I went through and did that. A lot of my time was also spent on the roofing, which as modeled originally was just big slabs of the corrugated material, but I wanted to make sections, so I sectioned that off into smaller sections. But of course, when you do that, it's very loud and unrealistic, so I did my best to go in and mute it. And so we'll take a closer look at that once I'm done explaining what I actually did. I'll have to take the camera off of the tripod. And also, one of the final things I did was I had to touch up the track because all of that base was sprayed a cement color. So I went in with a darker brown and actually a railroad tie brown and redid that. So that took a minute. Most of what you're seeing now with the entire model, you'll probably not see much again because it is going to be in the back of the layout. And as I said, a lot of this detail won't even be shown or visible to the average person, but I'll capture it in video and photos during my layout updates and train running videos. Wanted to show a close-up of the platform and the columns that are holding the platform up. I went ahead and weathered that as I stated earlier. I think it's a good representation of concrete. I certainly am happy with how that turned out. That AK textured material for concrete is definitely my go-to product for that, for this purpose. I did not use the treatment on the innermost columns just because, once again, that's going to be an area that most will not see from a distance, but the ones that were on the perimeter of the model and more visible, I used it. Okay, I'm going to apologize in advance for any shakiness. I am holding the camera with my hand, but I wanted to show you the roof detail here where I did try to create these panels. The yellowish sections help to show where I tried to create that, but the lines kind of fade in and out, which is okay, but I think it's a good representation of what these panels would look like. I didn't want to rip the whole roof out and do an entire section that way, but had I built this, I probably would have done something like that. But once again, this is going to be in the back of the layout. I'm not sure how much of this you'll actually see. You can see all the runoff, the rusting that's happening on all of the green sections. Use those oil paints to create that streaking. I also decided to weather this dust collector. It wasn't that way when this was last shown in an earlier segment. Here's a look at the inside, which you may see a little bit of this when I'm doing op sessions. And here's the section where the blast furnace will go. And I tried to do a little bit of residue, smoke, and soot where that will fit in. And here's just another view on the other side. All right, YouTube, I wanted to show all of the work that was done and all of these structures together so you can see how they tie in. I think it's fitting to go back and think about what the goal was. The main goal was to basically accent and bring out some of the details on this so that the whole structure was not one mundane color. I think it's even more important that that was done because this will sit in the back of the layout. The other thing was to tie it in to the location, so to blend it in with the backdrop as well as the area there. So we did that by matching up some of those colors that were in the backdrop as well as some of the colors, the green specifically coming from the bridges. And the last goal was to do a bit of weathering. Obviously, these types of industries or any industry is not squeaky clean. So I think all of my goals have been met. Once again, this is a very compressed model. If this was prototypical. It would take up just about half of the room. But I wanted to have a representation of a steel mill. And I think this does just that. I will do a little bit of operating on this, but it's probably not going to be 100% prototypical, but it will give me my steel mill fix. So what is to come in the future? Obviously, this has to be installed on the layout. I will add, you know, some dirt and grime and cinders down where the track is. Of course, that area can't be clean. There's a lot of piping that has to be added that if you go back and look at my trip to New Jersey, when I first picked this model up, you will see that piping, but I have not added it since it's been here because I knew I was going to pull the model out to do all of these modifications. But all of that still has to be added. And of course, I have to acquire some steel mill rolling stock, which I have none at this point. So I'll do another video with this in place and all of the accoutrements around it. And we'll see how it turns out. Having a bit of fun with these angles, but I appreciate everybody watching. And if you haven't already done so, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel and give me a like on this video, and any comments are always welcome. As always, this has been Dave, also known as Lovin' Them Trains. And until next time, later, y'all.